The classroom at Lincoln High School buzzed with the restless energy of teenagers. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating rows of desks where students scribbled notes or whispered to one another. Marcus Tate, a 35-year-old history teacher, stood at the front, his deep voice weaving a narrative about the civil rights movement. His eyes, sharp yet warm, scanned the room, ensuring every student felt included. Marcus had a gift for making history feel alive, urgent, as if the struggles of the past were lessons for today. Rosa Parks didn't just refuse to give up her seat, Marcus said, pacing slowly. She ignited a movement. One act of courage can change everything. Who here thinks they'd have the guts to do what she did? Hands shot up, some hesitant, others eager. Marcus smiled, nodding to Jamal Wilson, a 16-year-old black student with a quiet intensity. "Jamal, what's your take?" Jamal shifted in his seat, his voice steady but soft. "It's not just about courage. It's about knowing you're right, even when everyone else says you're wrong." Marcus nodded, impressed. "Exactly. Truth is your anchor. Hold on to it." The bell rang, and the room erupted into chatter as students gathered their books. Marcus stayed at his desk, organizing papers, when he heard a commotion in the hallway. Frowning, he stepped out and saw Jamal pinned against a locker by Ethan Carter, a white 17-year-old with a smug grin. Two of Ethan's friends flanked him, laughing as Ethan shoved Jamal harder. "You think you're smart, huh?" Ethan taunted, his voice laced with venom. "Stay in your lane or you'll regret it." The words hit Marcus like a punch. He strode forward, his presence commanding. "Ethan, step back, now." Ethan's eyes flicked to Marcus, a flicker of defiance in them. "He started it, Mr. Tate. Talking trash in class." Jamal's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Marcus placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder, his voice calm but firm. "We don't do this here. Ethan, you're coming with me to the counselor's office. Jamal, you okay?" Jamal nodded, his eyes downcast. Ethan scoffed, brushing past Marcus. "Whatever, you'll hear from my dad about this." The rest of the day passed in a blur, but Marcus couldn't shake the unease in his chest. Ethan's father, Richard Carter, was a wealthy real estate developer with deep ties to the school board. Marcus had seen men like Richard wield their influence like a weapon, bending rules to protect their own. Still, he filed a report with the principal, Ms. Linda Harper, detailing the bullying incident and requesting a meeting with Ethan's parents. That evening, as Marcus graded papers in his modest apartment, his phone buzzed. It was Ms. Harper, her voice tense. "Marcus, we have a problem. Richard Carter called. He says Ethan came home with a bruise, and he's claiming you grabbed him during the confrontation. The police are involved." Marcus's heart sank. "That's a lie, Linda. I never touched him." "I believe you," she said, but her tone was hesitant. "But Richard's pushing hard. He wants you suspended pending an investigation. I'll do what I can, but be prepared." Marcus hung up, staring at the wall. He'd faced prejudice before, subtle slights, skeptical glances, but this was different. This was a calculated attack. He thought of Jamal, of the fear in his eyes, and resolved to fight, not just for himself, but for every kid who'd ever been targeted for their skin color. The next morning, chaos erupted. As Marcus arrived at Lincoln High, 2 police officers waited at the entrance. A small crowd of students, including Jamal, watched in stunned silence as the officers approached. "Marcus Tate?" one officer said, his hand resting on his belt. "You're under arrest for assault." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus stood tall, his voice steady. "This is a mistake. I didn't assault anyone." The officers cuffed him. their movements mechanical. As they led him to the squad car, Marcus locked eyes with Jamal, who looked stricken. "Stay strong," Marcus mouthed, hoping the boy understood. In the back seat of the patrol car, Marcus's mind raced. Ethan's accusation was no accident. Richard Carter was pulling strings, using his wealth and connections to silence a black teacher who dared challenge his son. Marcus knew the system was stacked against him, but he wasn't defenseless. He had the truth, and the kids who'd witnessed it. The holding cell at the local precinct was cold, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the concrete walls. Marcus sat on a metal bench, his hands clasped, replaying the hallway incident in his mind. He hadn't touched Ethan. He'd only stepped between the boys, his voice calm, his hands at his sides. Yet here he was, accused of assault, his career and reputation hanging by a thread. His lawyer, Sarah Nguyen, arrived an hour later, her expression grim but determined. A young public defender with a reputation for tenacity, Sarah sat across from Marcus in the visitation room, a notepad in hand. "They're claiming Ethan has a bruise on his arm," Sarah said, her voice low. "Richard Carter's lawyer provided photos and a statement from Ethan saying you grabbed him during the confrontation. The school board's already suspended you, and they're pushing for a criminal charge." Marcus's jaw tightened. "It's a setup, Sarah. Ethan's lying, and his father's bankrolling the whole thing. I was protecting Jamal from being bullied." Sarah nodded, scribbling notes. "I believe you, but we need evidence, witnesses, video, anything. Did anyone else see what happened?" Marcus thought of the hallway, crowded with students. Plenty of kids were there. Jamal, for sure. Maybe others, but they're scared. Richard Carter's name carries weight. Sarah leaned forward. "We'll start with Jamal. If we can get him to testify, it might encourage others. In the meantime, I'll file for bail and request access to the school's security footage." Back at Lincoln High, the atmosphere was electric with gossip. Jamal sat in the cafeteria, his tray untouched, surrounded by a small group of friends. Among them was Ava Martinez, a quiet 17-year-old with a knack for staying under the radar. Ava's dark eyes darted nervously as Jamal recounted the incident. "Mr. Tate didn't do anything," Jamal said, his voice shaking with anger. "Ethan's lying because his dad can get away with anything. We can't let this happen." Ava fidgeted with her phone, her thumb hovering over a video she hadn't shown anyone. She'd been in the hallway, recording the confrontation out of habit. She often filmed school events for the yearbook. The video clearly showed Ethan shoving Jamal, Marcus intervening calmly, and Ethan's theatrical stumble when Marcus stepped close. But Ava hesitated. Her mother, Elena Martinez, had warned her about getting involved in controversies. "Keep your head down," Elena had said before leaving Chicago years ago to escape threats from powerful figures. "We should do something," Jamal continued, pulling out his phone. "I'm posting about this. Justice for Mr. Tate. Who's with me?" A few friends nodded, but Ava stayed silent, her heart pounding. She wanted to help, but fear held her back. What if the Carters came after her? What if she got expelled? That night, Jamal's post went live on Instagram and Twitter, a raw, emotional plea for support. "Mr. Tate is the best teacher we've got. He got arrested for protecting me from a bully. This ain't right. Justice for Mr. Tate." The post gained a few hundred likes, mostly from students, but it didn't break through the noise of social media. Jamal slumped on his bed, frustrated. They needed more than words. They needed proof. In the precinct, Marcus was released on bail, thanks to Sarah's quick work. He returned home, greeted by a flood of messages from students and colleagues. Some expressed support, others, influenced by local news painting him as a violent teacher, were skeptical. Marcus ignored the noise, focusing on his next move. He called Jamal, his voice steady. "Jamal, I need you to be honest," Marcus said. "Will you tell the truth about what happened? In court, if it comes to that?" Jamal didn't hesitate. "Yes, Mr. Tate, I got your back." Marcus smiled, a spark of hope igniting. "Good. And if you hear about anyone else who saw it, maybe someone with a video, let me know." As Marcus hung up, he didn't know that Ava Martinez was lying awake, her phone glowing with the video that could change everything. The weight of her decision pressed down, but the hashtag #Justice for Mr. Tate burned in her mind. She wasn't ready yet, but she was close. The following week, Lincoln High was a battleground of whispers and divided loyalties. Some students rallied behind Marcus, wearing Justice for Mr. Tate wristbands, while others, swayed by Ethan's popularity and his father's influence, spread rumors about Marcus's temper. The school board, under pressure from Richard Carter, announced a hearing to permanently terminate Marcus's contract. The local news ran stories with headlines like, "Teacher arrested for alleged assault on student," framing Marcus as the aggressor. Jamal refused to stay silent. He organized a small protest outside the school, joined by a dozen students holding signs reading "Truth over Lies" and "Save Mr. Tate." The protest drew attention from a local activist group, Chicago Youth for Justice, which amplified Jamal's hashtag on social media. The movement was growing, but it still lacked the evidence to turn the tide. Ava watched the protest from a distance, her phone heavy in her pocket. She'd watched her video 100 times, each viewing chipping away at her fear. Marcus hadn't just been a teacher to her. He'd been the one who encouraged her to apply for a journalism scholarship, telling her she had a voice worth hearing. Now, that voice was trapped in her silence. Late that night, Ava made a decision. She created an anonymous YouTube account, Lincoln Truth 2025, and uploaded the video with a simple title, "What Really Happened at Lincoln High?" Her hands trembled as she hit publish, but a weight lifted from her chest. She sent the link to Chicago Youth for Justice, hoping they'd spread it before she lost her nerve. By morning, the video had exploded. It racked up 50,000 views in hours, then 500,000 by noon. The footage was undeniable. Ethan's cruel taunts, Jamal's fear, Marcus's calm intervention, and Ethan's staged stumble. Comments flooded in. "This is disgusting. Justice for Mr. Tate. Who recorded this? They're a hero." Jamal burst into his mother's kitchen, phone in hand. "Mom, you gotta see this. Someone got it all on video." At the Carter household, panic set in. Richard watched the video on his laptop, his face pale. "This is a disaster," he muttered to his lawyer, Gregory Holt. "Find out who posted it. Now." Holt shook his head. "It's anonymous, Richard. And it's everywhere. We can't contain this." Richard slammed his fist on the table. "Then we double down. Get Ethan to stick to his story and put pressure on the school to expel anyone involved in spreading this." But the video's impact was unstoppable. It reached Elena Martinez, Ava's mother, who was now a prominent civil rights lawyer in New York. Elena had left Chicago years ago after clashing with figures like Richard Carter, whose influence had made her work dangerous. When she saw the video, tagged with "Justice for Mr. Tate," her blood boiled. She recognized Lincoln High and suspected her daughter's involvement. Elena called Ava, her voice urgent. "Ava, did you record this?" Ava's heart raced. Yeah, Mom. I didn't know what else to do." Elena's tone softened. You did the right thing. I'm coming to Chicago. We're going to fix this." At Sarah Nguyen's office, Marcus watched the video in disbelief, tears prickling his eyes. "Who did this?" he asked Sarah. "We don't know yet," Sarah said, a smile breaking through. "But this changes everything. I'm filing a motion to dismiss the charges, and we're going after the Carters for defamation." As the video hit 1 million views, a twist emerged that no one saw coming. Chicago Youth for Justice revealed the uploader's identity, not as a random student, but as Ava Martinez, daughter of Elena Martinez, a legal powerhouse known for dismantling corrupt systems. The news sent shockwaves through Chicago. Elena was back, and she was bringing her full force to bear. The courthouse steps were packed with protesters, students, and reporters as Marcus's case went to trial. The video had shifted public opinion overnight, turning Marcus from a vilified teacher to a symbol of resistance. Banners waved high, "Truth wins," and "Justice for Mr. Tate." Jamal stood at the forefront, his voice amplified by a megaphone. "We're here for Mr. Tate. We're here for justice." Inside, the courtroom was tense. Marcus sat beside Sarah Nguyen, his expression calm but resolute. Across the aisle, Richard Carter and his lawyer, Gregory Holt, looked strained. Ethan, called as a witness, fidgeted in his seat, his confidence crumbling under the weight of the video. Elena Martinez entered the courtroom like a storm, her presence commanding. She joined Sarah's team pro bono, her eyes blazing with purpose. "Let's bury them," she whispered to Sarah, who nodded. The prosecution's case unraveled quickly. The video, authenticated by forensic experts, was played for the jury, drawing gasps from the gallery. Ethan's lies were laid bare, his stage stumble exposed as a cruel fabrication. Under cross-examination by Elena, Ethan cracked. "Did you lie about Mr. Tate grabbing you?" Elena asked, her voice like steel. Ethan's eyes darted to his father, then back to Elena. Yeah, he mumbled. "My dad told me to say it." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Richard's face turned ashen as the judge banged her gavel for order. The charges against Marcus were dismissed on the spot, and the judge ordered an investigation into Richard Carter for obstruction of justice. Outside, the crowd cheered as Marcus emerged free at last. Jamal rushed to him, hugging him tightly. "We did it, Mr. Tate," Marcus smiled, his voice thick with emotion. "You did it, Jamal. All of you." But the fight wasn't over. Elena and Sarah filed a civil lawsuit against the Carter family and the school board, alleging defamation, racial discrimination, and negligence. The lawsuit included testimony from Jamal, who recounted the bullying, and Ava, who spoke publicly for the first time. "I recorded it because I knew no one would believe us," Ava said in court, her voice steady. "Mr. Tate taught me to stand up for what's right. I'm not afraid anymore." The school board, facing public outrage, settled the lawsuit, agreeing to pay damages and implement mandatory anti-racism training. Richard Carter was indicted on criminal charges, his empire crumbling under the weight of his own actions. Ethan, humiliated but spared jail, was transferred to another school, his reputation in tatters. Lincoln High became a focal point for change. Students, inspired by Ava and Jamal, formed a coalition to address bullying and racism. The school board, under new leadership, partnered with Chicago Youth for Justice to revise its policies, ensuring no teacher or student would face retaliation for speaking out. Marcus returned to his classroom, greeted by a standing ovation from his students. He stood at the front, his heart full. "Today," he said, "we're going to talk about how a single video changed our school. and how each of you can change the world. Months later, Lincoln High was a different place. The hallways buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose. Posters for the Lincoln Unity Club, founded by Jamal, lined the walls, promoting inclusivity and support for victims of bullying. Ava, now a senior, had won a journalism scholarship, her video cited as a landmark in student activism. Marcus, reinstated with a formal apology, was nominated for a National Teaching Award. The impact of the case rippled beyond Chicago. The video, now with over 10 million views, was featured in documentaries and educational programs about racial justice. Schools across the country adopted Lincoln High's anti-racism curriculum, and Ava's story inspired a wave of student-led campaigns to document and expose injustice. Marcus became a sought-after speaker, traveling to share his story. At a national education conference, he stood on stage with Ava and Jamal, their faces beaming with pride. "This isn't just my story," Marcus said to the crowd. "It's the story of kids who refused to stay silent, of a community that chose truth over fear." Ava took the microphone, her voice confident. "I was scared to share that video, but Mr. Tate taught me that silence isn't safety, it's surrender. If you see something wrong, record it, share it. The truth is our power." Jamal closed the speech, his eyes shining. "We're the future, and we're not waiting for change. We're making it." As the audience applauded, the screen behind them played Ava's video, now a symbol of hope. The final frame froze on Marcus's face, calm and resolute, with text overlay. "The truth lies in the hands of those who dare to capture it." Back in Chicago, Marcus sat in his classroom after hours, grading papers. A knock at the door revealed Elena Martinez, who'd stayed in the city to mentor local activists. "You've done something extraordinary here," she said, smiling. "Not just for yourself, but for every kid who walks these halls." Marcus shook his head. "It wasn't just me. It was Ava, Jamal, you, everyone who believed in the truth." Elena nodded. "And it's not over. There's always another fight." Marcus smiled, thinking of his students. "Good, we're ready." As he locked up for the night, Marcus passed a mural painted by the art club, a vibrant image of students holding phones, their screens glowing with the word truth. He paused, his heart swelling. The fight wasn't over, but for now, justice had prevailed, and that was enough.